We're joined at the roundish table tonight by Gary Segura, who's Professor of American Politics and Chair of Chicano Studies at Stanford University. He's in Australia as a guest of the United States Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. Gary, welcome to Planet America.
I'm glad to be here.
First of all, we'll get to the politics soon enough, but first to the personal of this executive order from Barack Obama a week ago. What impact is it going to make on the lives of people in the United States?
It's a pretty important deal. Approximately 800,000 young people fall into the category that are protected by his action. These are people who came to the United States illegally, but before they were the age of 16. So they're not legally culpable for their actions. They've committed no crime. They've stayed out of trouble with the law. They're going to college or serving in the military. That 800,000 people are now protected from deportation by the action.
Mitt Romney says it's a stopgap measure, that what we want to do in office is to make legal immigration easier, illegal immigration harder. He's obviously trying to convince some Latino voters that they can consider him as a possible candidate. Is he going to win over much support, do you think?
No, he's not.
That's a simple answer?
No, it's very straightforward. So the proposal that he articulated today at the National Association of Latino Elected Officials Convention in Florida was to make an adjustment possible only for people serving in the military, and even then still not be put on a path to citizenship. So the proposal that he's offered to affect the lives of the people who are going to most shape the attitudes of Latino voters is weaker than what the president has already put in place. So what Governor Romney's actually saying is, I'm going to undo what the president has done and put these 800,000 law-abiding young people back on the path to deportation. That's not the way to win votes.
But the fact that he can't bear to actually explicitly say, I will overturn that ruling if I become president, doesn't that speak to the power that this group has and the fact he might have already won the debate?
That he's already won the debate?
No, that the Latinos have actually won the debate already.
I think they've won the debate on that issue. And the problem for Governor Romney is the concentration of Latinos in battleground states. So Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Florida, those are states where in 2008 the Latino margin of victory exceeded the statewide margin of victory. The share of the Latino vote has only gone up in each of those states in the last 4 years, and Governor Romney is trailing badly in all of them.
You've got some stats.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, actually. We didn't rig this, because I've actually got a table ready. I'll just explain this quickly to the viewers. This is from Nate Silver from 538.com. He's a bit of an electoral guy. And he's mapped the percentage chance that a state will be the tipping point, the state that matters in the election, versus the Hispanic share of the turnout in 2008. So you see Virginia is the most likely to be a tipping point, 28%. It's got 5.3% Hispanic share of turnout in 2008. You can see the ones where this will really matter. Is Colorado is 11.7% Hispanic turnout, and that's got a 10% chance of being the tipping point. Nevada's got 15.5% turnout, and Florida, that's the big one, 15% turnout. Mind you, only a 3% chance of being a tipping point. Now, you might want to freeze that and look back at that another time because it's very complicated. But it goes to what you're saying, that some of these swing votes have got a lot of Latino voters in them.
That's right. So in 2008, of all places, North Carolina, the Latino margin of victory in 2008 exceeded the statewide margin. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that Latinos are going to carry states far and wide for Obama, but I do think that Governor Romney, starting in the position where he is literally losing this vote 67 to 23% or so in the most recent poll that Latino Decisions did, that suggests that he's got a very difficult task. It's also very bad news for Republicans going into the future because the Latino share of the national electorate is climbing in every election, and the white share of the national electorate, still 9 out of 10 Republican votes, the white share of the electorate is going down.
Why is it that we talk so much about the Latino vote in particular, rather than say, where we never mention, say, the Asian vote, when there's more Asian immigrants at the moment than Latino immigrants, and I know they're not as big a population, but they're a third as big. They're still substantial numbers. Why is the Latino vote in particular that we focus on so much?
The Latino vote's important because of its size in states that are actually competitive, like Nevada and Florida. The Asian vote, though, I think you ask a very interesting question, and there's not a lot of folks studying this in political science, but it turns out that in 1992, only 31% of Asian voters in the United States voted Democrat. And in 2008, it was 62. So the Asian population went from a majority Republican population to a majority Democratic population in one generation, and nobody understands why.
One of the things that has been suggested that Mitt Romney could do to win over some Latino support is, as his vice presidential running mate, nominate the senator from Florida, Marco Rubio.
The great brown hope.
Right. Now others have said, you know, if you understand Latino politics, that maybe isn't such a good idea because he comes from a Cuban-American background, and that may not convince maybe some Latinos in Colorado. Can you kind of explain to us the politics within the politics there?
Sure. So Cuban Americans are only 3.5% of the American Latino electorate. They're a very small population. They're heavily concentrated in Florida, and that makes them electorally important. But they're a very small share. Senator Rubio's background, association with the Tea Party, broad opposition to most immigration reforms until very recently when he started talking about an alternative to the DREAM Act, has put him at odds with most Latinos. Most Latinos in the United States don't know who he is, but when they hear who he is and what he stands for, they're not favorable. So we've done polling in states outside of Florida, and he doesn't do anything for the Republican ticket among Latino voters. So you pick vice presidential nominees not because they're going to solve your grand problems, but because they might help solve a problem in a state. So where does Governor Romney need help? He needs help in Florida. He needs help in Ohio. He needs help in Pennsylvania. The difference is that in Florida, he's actually running closer to the president than he is in Ohio. I think Rob Portman's the pick for him.
Do you think ultimately this is going to be a decisive section of the community with the states that we're looking at there on Chaz's computer, and the idea that maybe Arizona, for instance, could swing into the Democrats' column and make up for one of those northeastern states that could swing away? Is this going to be front of mind for the next 5 months?
I think it's going to be a lot that we talk about. The numbers that you put up a moment ago on polling showed that Arizona was polling within the margin of error. Do you have any idea how astounding that is? And that's only possible because of the influence of the Latino vote.
Could I just go to the long term here? Because a lot of people talk about majority, minority, etc., and about how there'll be all these Latinos in the future. In 20 years, are Latino voters just going to be like white voters? Are they just going to get absorbed by the white community, or do you think they'd be a separate bloc into the future?
Well, that's the argument that was made 20 years ago in 1992, and it hasn't turned out. It could have been. I think that George W. Bush, love him or hate him, was the most effective Republican president in reaching out to Latino voters. He is the first president of the United States ever to give a speech entirely in Spanish. But then they lost their opportunity. Other members of his party went in a different direction.
Well, Gary Segura, thank you very much for joining us on the Roundish Table on Planet America. And that is all the time we have for this week.